I'm recording now. This is the SharePoint DC user group meeting, and Peter Ward, CTO of SOHO Dragon, is going to give us 5 steps to replace our current audio-video conference system with Microsoft Teams. Please take it away.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, good to see you again. Okay, so firstly, thank you, Scott, for having me as the guest speaker at the SharePoint DC user group meeting. I know we meet remote. Where exactly do you actually meet physically back in the day?
Back in the day, we met in Arlington, near where the museum used to be, near what I guess is courthouse, the station, the train station.
Okay, I know that. Yep. Okay. Is that the DC train station?
Yeah, but it's in Arlington, wherever the courthouse stuff is.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. I must admit, the DC train station is, that's one of the best train stations in America. Oh, yeah, on the same par as Grand Central. Okay. Right. So who am I? Okay. So I am the founder and CTO of SOHO Dragon. We're a Microsoft Gold partner. My skills are SharePoint, Office 365, I'm a Microsoft MVP, the co-author of 4 SharePoint books. I also have a column in Forbes that I write to. You're also the co-organizer of SharePoint Saturday New York, which is one of the biggest SharePoint Saturdays in America. We have about 800 registrations every year. Obviously, last year we had 0. We didn't organize it because the social distancing, would have been absolutely physically impossible, unless we did this in the Yankee Stadium. I also run the Teams Tuesday meetup, which is every Tuesday, which is actually next week, actually. And that's we have a lot of great speakers there, and it's all about Teams and Office 365. I'm based in New York. I'm very old school. I like my projects on time and on budget. My hobbies are yoga and vegetarian cooking. Okay, so let's just have some quick audience introductions here. Who is using Teams? It's in the chat window. You want to say, yeah. Is everybody using Teams in some capacity? So you're using it for this meeting. Very good, Scott. Yes. Finally, Joe. Yep. So you are on Skype for Business. Who is on Skype for Business? Just confess if you're on Skype for Business. Is anyone on Skype for Business? You have both. Okay, bit of a mix. Right. Okay. Client both Skype. Okay. Stopped using it. Very good. Okay. And who is sort of like, okay, in your company, who's using like WebEx and Zoom, Zoom Enterprise, Jabber? Anyone using those? I should put it on survey on this. Okay, Joe, is that Jabber or a bit of everything? Zoom. All right. Okay, it's a bit of Slack there, but Zoom. Very nice. All right. Okay. Good. So we got a bit of a mix. So the people who mentioned about WebEx and Zoom and Jabber. Okay, this is the audience. You are speaking to the right person just to explain how to bring this onto Teams. Okay. So thanks for everyone's participation. So important information here. Everything which is written down, everything you see is going to be on my blog. Okay, and I'll put that link in this chat. This is a repeat slide. I have to say repeat slide because people always ask me at the end of questions, is there a blog site I can actually get this information from? Right. So the theme of this is basically standardization of a unified communication platform. And the presentation style is very conversational. Okay. So why am I speaking to you about this subject? Okay. This is a very, very complicated conversation, and a phone system, video conferencing system, okay, is very, very important. You think it's bad when the email goes down. think about when it happens when the phones go down. It's this is sort of like you dire straits basically. Okay, so we've done a lot of migrations from and assessments with organizations who are basically Zoom Enterprise, WebEx, and bringing it onto Teams. So as you can see on my introduction, like I work for SOHO Dragon, we're a Microsoft partner. Okay, so obviously a company is engaging us for our Microsoft expertise. So that's like the disclaimer of this conversation, of this presentation. It's a bit like if you speak to the Pope about what's the best religion, he's going to be completely straight with you about what his answer is. So, we're a pure Microsoft shop here. Okay, so I don't work for any. We're not an integrator or a reseller of ShoreTel or Cisco or any other phone systems. We are a pure Microsoft shop. Okay, and we've done numerous assessments with organizations who are using Teams, Cisco WebEx, Zoom Enterprise, and Java.
Excuse me 1 second, Peter.
Sure.
The audio is fading in and out. Is there anything that you might be able to do to fix that?
Okay, hang on 1 second. Yes, let me take my Bluetooth speakers off, earpieces out. Scott, is that better?
It sounds a little tinny, but talk a little more. Maybe it'll get better.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, your microphone there is kind of awful.
Okay, wait 1 second. How does that sound?
Okay, Kevin, keep
Much
on testing.
better for me.
Hang on. How does that sound?
It's a little rough.
Is that better?
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Lynn, is that better?
It is for me, yes.
It's quite ironic. I'm talking about video conferencing and there's some sound issues. Let me just turn. All right. If anyone can't really hear me properly, just speak up and I will change the tuning on this. So for the past 12 months, I've done some assessments with the intent of standardizing company communications into MS Teams. And this doesn't always get into the single platform, right? So, which is unusual because when you do a SharePoint migration, okay, from on-prem to the Office 365, you're always 100% certain to get to the destination. And so that doesn't always happen with this. Okay, so just bear that in mind. This is the landscape: Teams, Cisco WebEx, Zoom, Java. Okay, and generally the value of this presentation is that if you're working for a company or organization that's got more than 150 employees, that's where the sweet spot is. Okay, so if you're like a consultant just using Zoom, then there's not a great deal of value on that. Okay, let's go back there. So why do you want to standardize? Okay, lack of unified messaging platforms. Okay. Skype for Business is going away in July 2021. Okay, and there's also a lack of consistent collaboration with external companies. Nothing basically confuses the end user when you're telling people, let's get on a conference bridge, and half the company's on Zoom and half the company's on Teams. Okay, that really just doesn't work. And also lack of a system collaboration platform, social distancing. So this is a big thing where everybody's, we're not having physical meetings that much these days. So basically Zoom, Teams, you need to standardize on the whole thing. Let's look at the cost of ownership, training, end user support. Okay, remember IT needs to support 2 systems if you've got Zoom and Teams. If you can standardize it, it lowers the cost. And with people working at home and they're not using their physical phones, you're paying for this. Okay, all right. So therefore, you've got situations where you've got a physical phone, okay, and people aren't even there to pick up the phone. They're actually working at home. So let's look at some basic understandings. Okay, Jabber and Skype don't actually integrate due to lack of support. Is there anyone here uses Jabber? Just put it in the chat window. I'm assuming, okay, yep, using Jabber, okay. Okay, all right, okay. Cisco and Zooms does integrate with Teams, and I'll show you this. Okay, now they do integrate, but they only integrate so far. Right, so with that being said, there are third-party tools to help. Licenses. That's a key thing. Everyone says, oh, we need to standardize, we need to save costs. Okay, but you need to understand when your actually enterprise license agreements actually expire. Okay, because when you present this to the board, okay, or the stakeholders, okay, it's not much good if you've got 12 months for this for the licenses to expire. Okay, phone systems are perceived as a commodity item. Okay, video conferencing collaboration systems are not. Okay, you got chatting, speaking, storage, and those user experience is very different. Okay, so like a phone system, well, somebody picks up the phone, they leave voicemail. Okay, I want the cheapest possible option. You can't do that with a standardized collaboration system with video conferencing and chat. Okay. So this is a Teams. Okay, you've got the apps for Cisco. You've got Jabber here as well. Okay, WebEx. Okay, I'm just going to show you the Zoom integration. Go to the apps. Choosing my Zoom here. So I'm starting a meeting, my Zoom. So here I'm actually in the Teams client, starting a Zoom meeting. So this is what people do when they've got Zoom. Okay, so you might have to log in. Okay, so remember, end users generally don't like multiple logins. All right, okay, so that's a good example of the Zoom integration into Teams. WebEx is the same. I'm going to talk about this a bit more. This is the Zoom as well. Okay, right. So you've seen how to integrate Zoom into Teams. So it's almost about like the narrative of this presentation is like, well, how do you actually standardize on this? So it's the same as in any migration. You get the inventory of what you want to get. You get the requirements. Look at the cost benefits. Do a scorecard. Present all these findings to the stakeholders. They make a decision, yay or nay, and then you move forward. Okay, this is not rocket science. Okay, so let's just talk about how to get the inventory. Okay, you want to get your user personas, your equipment. Okay, remember, people have got laptops, they've got phones, and also conference rooms. Okay, and you've got physical equipment as well. Okay, other things as well, contracts of the existing tools. When do your licenses of Cisco and Zoom Enterprise, when do they expire? Okay, user personas. Okay, are people internal? Okay, are they external? Okay, are you working from home? Okay, anyone? I know this is the DC user groups. So I suspect there's a lot of government organizations, but in terms of banks, your bank, the traders and the research analysts should be speaking to each other, okay, or sharing information as much. Okay. Understand your policies. Okay. So therefore, when you do your inventory, you want to very clearly state what is out of scope. So when you present this to the stakeholders, they don't go bananas, say, look, this is rough, you've missed out half the inventory. Okay. So of course, Simplicity, Bloomberg, and Zoom, these are financial. I don't have any interest with government organizations. Is there like a chat equivalent like Bloomberg or Sympathy or anything? Or are you pure Microsoft? Scott, you're like a veteran in the government space, aren't you?
Unfortunately, it's left its own form of PTSD with me.
It's what?
Yes, I've been in the government space a long time. It's given me PTSD.
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, right. Okay.
I'm in the government space currently, and yes, so it's a mix of things. There's always a mix of things. It's whatever they bought 10 years ago and have kept alive for far too long.
Right. Okay. Okay. But my question was: is there like a government equivalent of a chat? Like in finance, all the traders always use Bloomberg. In government, is that the same? Is there some kind of a government platform, or no? They're using whatever they're using.
No, there's no standard. Agency to agency, government organization to government organization, sometimes branch to branch. It's whatever someone has picked, and it's a mess.
Right. Okay. Some things never change. Right. All right. So let's just go back. You've done your inventory. You use the personas, the equipment. You've got your contracts. Understand the policies. Okay. This is the policies about who should be speaking to who. Okay. Okay. And also about what information needs to be shared. Okay. And that's what's known as information barriers. Okay. So what I mean about that, I'm speaking to an external person. Can I chat with this person? Can I share documents with this person in the chat? Okay. Those are the kind of things you need to have. There's those information barriers. So these are the requirements. Cost benefits. Okay. Adhere to information barriers. Persistent chat rooms. Okay. So these are chat rooms which are like which you have, which are just always on. Okay. So therefore, how do we archive them? Because they don't end. It's just always just going, and there's always chat. There's always updates. Okay. Persistent audio and video. Okay. So it's not unusual for you to have like meetings scheduled every week, and it's the same meeting. Okay. So therefore, with all of that information collected, what do you do with that? Okay. And this comes to recording and the archiving and retention. Okay. So as I've said, that here I am, SOHO Dragon. We're based in New York. We're based actually off Wall Street. We work with basically all of the big banks and the hedge funds. So any bank or hedge fund will always be archiving their information with Global Relay, which is a third-party product. Okay. And when the auditors come in, if you've got Global Relay, you're taken care of. Okay. So when it comes to Teams, documents, chats, recordings, this all has to end up in Global Relay. So when the auditors come in and say, well, what happened here 3 months ago? Can you please produce a report within 48 hours? All right. Okay. That's a question which every CTO will have to answer very, very quickly. Okay. So these are the requirements, i.e., what are we actually basically archiving and keeping for retention, and how long for? All right. Audio, video, conferencing communities, the callback numbers, these are the requirements. So if you ever use GoToMeeting, they have quite a cool feature that I can join on my PC and then it can call my cell phone. Okay. Toll-free numbers. Okay. International dialing. Okay. We're now global organizations. Okay, so therefore, does your US entity, which is based in London and Tokyo, when they're dialing in, is that an international calls? How are they doing that? On that. Okay. Also, when we talk about users, okay, we're also talking about rooms. So therefore, we're dialing a conference bridge number, which could actually be conference room 23 on the 14th floor. Okay, so these are the requirements. It's very, very complicated, much more complicated than a SharePoint migration, where here's the content, here's the security, okay, and this is general what people are doing with the workflows. Okay, seems simple, but it's a lot more complicated. Okay, and then phone control capability, that click to dial. So therefore, I've got a conference bridge number. Do I just click it and it goes straight in? Okay, if I need to dial Steve Jones, it's a one-click experience. Okay, and let's talk about document sharing, internal and external. I mentioned that earlier. Okay, so therefore, Teams is great for collaboration, but too much collaboration where you've got people talking to the wrong people is not good. I suspect in government organizations, like in any big organization, where if I'm having a Teams meeting with someone external, how do I restrict certain documents or any document being shared in that team meeting? Okay, and then of course you've got whiteboard persistent activity, which Teams does. Okay, and then you got the note taking as well, and remote accessibility as well. This is like on your tablet and your phone. This is the user personas. And let's talk about the encryption, data encryption, the content management, synchronization, passwords. So for example, you might have Zoom Enterprise and you're connecting to that into Teams. Okay, are those passwords synchronized? Okay, also with Teams authentication sits on top of AD. And it has the password requirements. Does your Zoom meet the company or organization password requirements? Okay, so you want that seamless user experience. When I open up Teams, I go to a meeting, I don't need to log in again. Okay, it's a straight shot. Okay, and that's the global interization. So your ADs in your different organizations, different entities, all works perfectly. External integration federated with other companies. All right. So these are the requirements. You can see how it gets quite complicated. And you have a unified platform support. So this is where IT are saying, okay, so this is Teams, we can support this. Okay, is Zoom or WebEx, it might be in Teams, can we support this? Do we have like the knowledge to do this? So these are the test cases. All right, so this is the Teams call forwarding, pass through. Then you've got the WebEx calling, the meeting rooms, and so basically you're producing everything, or every, should we say, user I would say experience or request. Does it work in Teams? Is it a success or is it a failure? Compliance, these are hidden pitfalls. Okay, so third-party integration. How do you get this into a global read? Out of interest, what do the big government organizations use for their archiving and retention? Like a global relay owns the financial space. What about the government part? John, you work for government, is that correct? So Joe, is that Joe Dunn?
You mean retention of video conferencing and chat information?
Exactly, and the documents.
I introduce you to government IT. I don't know that they've thought of that.
Okay. So here's a question. Are there regulators that come into the government IT and say you're not doing it right, or and do audits?
Yes.
So,
Sorry.
all right,
Um,
you must have
I-
archiving
I'm
tools that you
laughing
can buy
because-
to record documents and all of that.
yeah. Often the people doing the auditing are less knowledgeable about the options than the people they are auditing, and might even be from the exact same organization.
Right. So there's not like the independence.
There isn't an independent, knowledgeable
Right.
auditing going on in the sense that you probably think of as auditing.
Right. Yeah, and also in essence, when an order comes in, with a bank or a hedge fund, and you're not compliant, you're looking at being dinged millions of dollars. Heads will roll, and in worst case scenario, the hedge fund will be closed down.
For sure, there's consequences.
Yes,
That's an interesting way to live if your actions and decisions have consequences.
Yes.
I'm not sure that the government knows what to do in that sort of world. Because it's there are very little consequences. We've not to tell tales out of school. The recent Flash shutdown appears to have caught everyone by surprise. And so there are a few important systems that haven't worked for a month and a half because Flash was shut down. And no one is going to be called out on the carpet for not predicting something that happened that was announced 3 years ago.
What is the Flash shutdown?
Adobe Flash Player.
Oh, okay.
It hit end of life on December 31st. And come January 15th, when the it finally carried through to all the updated systems and everything, several important systems no longer worked. Online training was one of them.
Right.
And because a lot of that was built in Flash decades ago. And everyone's known that Flash was going to get shut down. It wasn't a surprise to anyone until January 15th happened, and all of a sudden nothing worked. And yeah, so
I hear.
But no one's in. If that had happened in a corporate environment, a hedge fund, any of these things, the financial systems that you're talking about, where, oops, I didn't update. I'm the head of IT, and I didn't have my guys upgrade the systems anytime in the last 3 years, that person would be fired.
Yep.
And several probably high-ranking people in his organization would be as well. Yeah. However, nothing's going to happen. Absolutely nothing's going to happen to any of the people responsible for that decision making here.
Right. Okay. I hear. So let's just talk about the other hidden. It's like know the regulation. So in the financial world, the regulation 17A4 is capturing electronic information, which is basically everything needs to be captured. Okay, we are not doing communications via Gmail, text messages, or Snapchat. Okay, this all needs to be on a corporate platform. Okay, so if you're a financial organization and it appears that there's trades which are occurring outside applications which are not being tracked, you've got some serious consequences. Okay, on that. Okay. So products are constantly changing. Okay, so even like, and I have a slide on this. Okay, but even since we've done audits and we say, oh yeah, this could happen, suddenly Teams introduces chaperones. Okay, so what does that actually mean? Okay, so those are the kind of things which we actually need. You can now upload PowerPoint and present PowerPoint into Teams on that. So that's an element of sharing. Okay, and then how do you regulate this and how do you track this? Okay, on this. Permissions in the applications, authentications. Okay, so the end user wants to log in with AD, they don't want to log in with other things. Okay, understanding the licenses and how they work in terms of when they expire. Okay, what do they cover, and is it global or national? Right, so you've done your requirements, you've got all of the variations and combinations about what we require. You do the cost benefits. Remember that when the CTO reports into the CFO, okay, all the CFO cares about is the numbers on the spreadsheet, okay, rather than the requirements and the user experience. If the CTO reports into the CEO, okay, it's a bit more growth, it's a bit about user experience. Right, cost benefits, okay, so the cost benefits is what I just mentioned. So you need to present this to a scorecard. A scorecard is where you go to the stakeholders and you explain about your findings. So this is a good example of the scorecard. Let's just talk about this. You've got Teams, Score, WebEx, Teams, Score, and Java. You get the idea. And then you've broken this down, the overall platform. Oops, go back there. Organizational direction, and you wait. So this is basically, you're going to add this up, and then the stakeholders are going to say, yay or nay, can we standardize? What can we actually get rid of? And what can we actually be our deferred platform for chat, document sharing, and chat? Key advantages and disadvantages. So let's just look at this a bit. Okay, let's just take 10 seconds to see what is written here, and then we'll just go through this a bit more. See here, I've got the Teams, I've got the advantages, disadvantages, the WebEx, advantages, disadvantages. So you can see, okay, yeah, Teams, you've got the chat, workplace meeting, and all of that. Lacks robust conference rooms. So if you've got a lot of physical devices with physical products, you might have a problem. And that could be quite expensive. Okay, particularly if you just upgrade their Cisco products 6 months ago on that. Let's have a look at some of the other disadvantages. Teams platform supports will be disjointed from comm solutions, messages, and telecom them. So it works okay with third party, not brilliant. Not supported with WebEx boards. Okay, so let's just look at the Cisco WebEx on this. Got to see whether it's conversing with the global direction. Are we becoming more of a Microsoft shop? Information boundaries, banking and research shouldn't be talking to each other. Can you actually stop that? Okay, other things not supported, multi-line video recording. You got to use Java. Okay, so this is your scorecard, advantage and disadvantages. So I'm trying. When we do this, we'll give this fairly objectively. Lessons learned. Okay, know your policies. Nothing shoots down a good IT project than compliance, saying that doesn't comply with the company policy, security. So that's the conferencing policies. Archiving retention. Okay, information protection. Okay, the barriers. Okay, and the firewall and breakout policy. So therefore, it's already well getting this working in your labs, but it's something else when you actually get this working in your environment. With Teams, when you've got multiple monitors, it does slow down. Okay, people are very, very particular. If you think SharePoint are branding specific, you have no idea. In the SharePoint branding days, I want to move the logo here, the quick launch on the left. I want it round the corners. Okay, with video conferencing, the whole music. Can you replace the whole music? Okay, the button icons, can you move those around? I know it's Teams, but I want it to look like Zoom. Okay, so accept the solutions that you're not going to get pure Teams. So when you start off this initiative, you've got a level, everyone's expectations say you may not get to the destination of standardizing totally. Okay, so we might, at the end of this issue, at the end of this initiative, okay, we might be able to reduce one of the platforms, degrade it, okay, and it's still part of the journey. Microsoft Teams, Jabber, okay, so therefore you've got to figure out which one do we actually want to reduce or discontinue. Okay. Also, the ease of use. Okay, that's Linux and Windows clients have different Teams functionality. So when we talk about the ease of use, that go-to meeting feature, where the dial back feature, people will love that on that. Okay, if that's not in Teams, you got a problem. Okay, and you've really got to test this in your labs, okay, and on the PCs, POC, and because Teams is a bit of a memory hog in places. Right, so you've done your scorecard, and then you make a decision, it's yay or nay. Okay, these are some links which will talk about everything I've discussed, and it will give you a bit of a direction about calling plan, which calling plan is right for you. Okay, the call me feature for your users, and obviously how it works in Office 365. So what's recently new? Okay, is everyone familiar with the together mode? Everyone put in the chat. Everyone familiar with the chat? Everyone familiar with together mode? No. Well, if you go to the Pell's top 3, you've got the gallery and you've got the together mode. You can click on that, and you can see me with the headphones on, because I'm probably the only person with a video camera on. Also, you've got the gray background, light, dark mode. Look at this. Who's just joined me there? Okay, right. Very nice. You got the pop-out apps. Okay. You can add the shared calendar into Microsoft Teams channel. Breakout rooms. 5 minutes left. Okay, that's good if you're talking to somebody who doesn't know how to shut up on the call. Okay, they can be noted. Okay, you can now upload presentations into the Teams. Okay, and therefore you're presenting the PowerPoint in the team rather than the PowerPoint on your desktop into that. Okay, you've also got approvals. Okay, and adding the lab, so adding a tab. Okay, that's been improved, and the external sharing. So one of the complaints I got with Teams was that if I was speaking, if I did a WebEx, sorry, if I did I wouldn't say a WebEx, if I did a Teams call with Scott, okay, and then I wanted to share it with somebody else, even though it was in stream, I had to basically download it into my OneDrive external and then share it with people external. You can now do that a lot simpler now. Okay. Other things, well, the together mode has got additional scenes. Okay. Has everyone seen that? So let me look at the gallery. Well, your addition, Scott, your together mode is in preview mode. It doesn't actually have the additional scenes.
I'm sorry?
Your Teams is in preview mode. It doesn't have the additional scenes. There you go. I'm now. Well, that's probably because you're the host, actually.
It's probably because I'm hosting, and I'm hosting from a Linux environment, which is why my version of Teams always says it's preview mode.
Okay, give me another scene. One of the most wacky creative ones you can do. Oh, you're having to think about this. Okay, so still got useful links. This is the, I'm wrapping up the presentation now. This is the Teams Tuesday, the monthly meetup that I host remotely. And this is the summary takeaway of this cost benefit analysis, the buy-in, what's new the past 12 months, hidden pitfalls, lessons learned from me and my team's deployments. Any questions?
Peter, thank you very, very, very much. I'm going to stop recording, and then if anyone else wants to start asking other questions, you're free to do so.
I'm actually going to upload the PowerPoint.